Welcome back to another We Ourselves video. And today I want to do my quick take on a Variety article concerning Wesley Snipes' comments about appearing in the latest Deadpool movie. Namely that he didn't think returning to Deadpool Wolverine made any sense given the MCU's reboot of the character. I really want to get into this article and do my quick take on it because I've heard other people talking about it and it makes no sense to me. And I don't see many other people saying the same thing. Why doesn't it make sense to me? By the time Ryan Reynolds got around to doing all the cameos, the reshoots and things like that, they already knew what the movie was. Hugh Jackman was already on board to play the character. And so I'm sure Ryan Reynolds had to sell Wesley Snipes on the idea, so he told him not only about the cameos, but what the movie was about. So it always bothered me that Wesley Snipes would say that returning didn't make any sense. The movie itself is about variants in the void. And by Blade himself playing a variant, it already means that there's another Blade. But don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that the regular Blade is still alive. When you look at Loki season 1 and 2, we see all the variants of Loki that outlived the main Loki on the main sacred timeline, the one who was killed by Thanos. So the idea that your variant is in the void doesn't necessarily mean that the real you is still out there. But that's not my point. You're a variant already. Chris Evans came back to reprise Johnny Storm, a character he played in the original Fantastic Four movies, and those movies didn't even happen as long ago as your Blade movie, which was over 20 years ago. And yet, nobody had a problem with him showing up. In fact, we liked the cameo. And then Ryan Reynolds himself is playing multiple versions of Deadpool. In the previous movie, he uses Cable's time travel device to go back and kill a previous version of himself. He even crossed over to the DC universe and killed his Green Lantern. But the biggest thing that says that Wesley Snipes' comics makes no sense is the fact that you're in a movie with Hugh Jackman who's reprising his Wolverine role. Yes, he isn't technically the same one that died in Logan, which just proves the point, but he is playing Wolverine. But two of the most anticipated additions to the MCU is the rebooted Fantastic Four and the rebooted X-Men. But despite the fact that so many of us are looking for the reintroduction of the X-Men, Hugh Jackman comes back and he reprises his Wolverine in this movie. It made perfect sense for him to do that, and it was the very thing that got this movie really greenlit and finally going. And Wesley Snipes had to know that when he was asked to come back and reprise his role of Blade. So why would he do this article saying that he didn't think it made any sense for him to come back as his iconic character? And I use that word on purpose. Yet it made perfect sense for Hugh Jackman to come back and star as Wolverine in this movie. He's a co-star, even though there's an X-Men reboot on the way. And that's why this article bothered me, and that's why his comments made no sense. Because if Wesley Snipes really felt that way, even if at the time he was asked to do the cameo, and if we're being fair to him, even if he didn't know all the ins and outs and what the movie was totally about, once he got there on set, once he got himself in shape, once he started to learn his lines, whether it was from Ryan Reynolds or whether Snipes himself came up with it, he knew what the movie was about, and he knew that there were all kind of variants of the original characters in the movie. So if he really felt it was odd for him to even be in the movie, why the hell would he use that line that he did in the movie? Why would he say in the movie that there's only one Blade and there will never be another? Make it make sense, because it doesn't. And that's why I feel this Variety article is trash. And I also have to say something here. I do not like the rewriting of the history concerning the third Blade movie and Ryan Reynolds' inclusion. Yes, it's entirely possible that Wesley Snipes didn't have any issue with Ryan Reynolds himself. Ryan Reynolds was at the start of his acting career. Wesley Snipes was already on the rise. He was already established. And him knowing the ins and outs of it, then he probably didn't blame Ryan Reynolds for being in that movie, but Wesley Snipes complained about his role in the movie being reduced by 2/3 because they interjected these two white characters into the story and took screen time from him. He was not happy with it. And the slight rewriting to say, well, apparently he's he's been in a good relationship with Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, I can see that. But his problem was with the studio. And why would we be surprised that a studio led by Perlmutter, who didn't even want a Black Panther all these years later, even knowing what Blade had done for his company back then, of course, it makes sense that somebody like that, after having to rely on the revenue from these first two Blade movies, helping to push his idea forward of a renovated Marvel Studios, of course he would bring in two white actors to shoehorn into a third Blade movie and possibly move Blade out. Wesley Snipes was upset about that. Was he upset with Ryan Reynolds? It's entirely possible he wasn't, because he knew where it was really coming from. Wesley Snipes was pissed about it at the time. My biggest point and problem with this article and Wesley Snipes agreeing to do that line is because it represents a mentality within Marvel Studios itself. They do not want these popular Black characters, particularly the male characters, to develop a legacy. And it's troubling that Wesley Snipes seemed to have signed on for that. Consider this. No other character in the movie said anything is asinine. Not after, and certainly not in the movie. Deadpool did not say there's only one Deadpool. In fact, we see multiple versions of him, just about every version you can have, including a damn dog. Then we're introduced to multiple variants of other people. Hugh Jackman played a variant of himself, and then we saw him play several other variants in the movie. Nobody else in the movie says this. Elektra doesn't say that. They talk about there being multiple Punishers. Gambit doesn't say that. So it's like, why would Wesley Snipes, out of all the characters and cameos in the movie, why would he get there and say something like that, knowing that he's in a multiverse where multiple versions of all these characters have been sent? It's because of the Marvel mentality. And he's bought into that mentality when it comes to popular Black male heroes or anti-heroes not having a legacy. There cannot be a legacy established, period. So you have him say out of his own mouth, there's only one Blade and that's all there ever be. That is what doesn't make any sense. Not the fact of him being in the movie, but him uttering that statement. And again, that's why this Variety article is nonsense to me, because if he really felt like being there made no sense, when you had a younger actor, Mahershala Ali, about to come out with his own Blade iteration and movie, then why would you utter that line in the movie? Why would you agree to it if it was Ryan Reynolds who wrote it? And I honestly wonder if Ryan Reynolds wanted to actually say iconic, and Kevin Feige told him, hell no, you cannot say that. Just like they did with Wakanda Forever and the ritual that they played out there, they're doing the same thing here. Mahershala Ali's Blade is not cursed, but there is spell work being done, and you saw it done right in front of your face, just like they did with T'Challa. Kevin Feige is not dumb. He's been taking fire for his iconic comment and not recasting T'Challa. But they had to stop Mahershala Ali, and I'm going to do a separate video on that. But his fate in that movie's production was sealed when he said that he wanted it to be his Black Panther. It was red alert. It was all hands on deck. We have to stop this now before that train gets out of the station. And that's what they did. But they needed to have their little spell and their ritual. So what do? Ryan Reynolds, he goes and get the original Blade, has him walk on screen in slow-mo, and have all of these people, including Black men and the Black audience, go crazy. They're excited to see him. They like it. They're enthusiastic about it. It's all this adoration, and they get all of this emotion from people around the world, and then they do their declaration, just like Kevin Feige did in 2020 when he said that T'Challa was iconic. But instead, they one-upped it. They knew they couldn't do it themselves because all of the recast T'Challa people would have been on it in a second. So what do? They one-up us. They have a Black person say it. And who better to say it than the actual person who played the first live-action iteration of Blade on the big screen? So after we pour out all of our emotions and we're all excited, and remember, emotions are fuel. Worldwide, people are excited to see Blade, and then what does he do? He utters that declaration. It was devious as hell. There's only one Blade, and that's all it will ever be. That's essentially what Kevin Feige said when he called T'Challa's iteration iconic, transcending all others. They made it plain, and they had a Black actor, the original actor, say it and seal the deal. They are doing their spell work in front of your face. And Ryan Reynolds looked at you out of that screen. He was looking at you. They're punking all of us. So no, Mahershala Ali's blade is not cursed. There are people making deliberate decisions to run it in the ground. And they are doing their spell work. They are using our energy to fuel their agenda. And that's what happened in front of our faces. If they ever do another Blade movie, it won't be Mahershala Ali because he sealed his fate. He came in too strong. I'm going to do a video that talks about the hit piece that was done on him, saying that he had inordinate power. I'm going to break that word down and show what they were really saying. And when you see that, you'll understand people like Anthony Mackie who goes along with their agenda because he doesn't do anything inordinate. He stays well within the boundaries that are set by the Marvel process. Mahershala Ali came in swinging and they could not let that happen. Again, I'm going to do a separate video on that, but they really did their declaration and their spell work here. And they used the raw emotions from all the fans of all color around the world, got you hyped, then made their declaration and sealed it when Ryan Reynolds, as Deadpool, looked at you directly in the eye. So that's why, like I said, that article in Variety doesn't make any sense. God forbid if something happened to Anthony Mackie, there's not going to be another Falcon. They're going to claim he's iconic. There's only one Falcon, and that's all there'll ever be. Because they can't use the word iconic because they know we're on them. Those are my comments on this. Let me know what you think. And also like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you in the next video.